Dear listeners, good morning and welcome to Comme d'Archi, Season 1 of Summer, the podcast that opens the doors to the fascinating world of architecture. For newcomers, let me introduce myself. I'm the spokesperson of Anne-Charlotte Despont, PhD in History of Architecture, published author, head of a communication and development agency based in Paris, France, dedicated to architecture. Let's meet every week to discuss culture and architecture with specialists and learn how to look at projects through a context and diversity lens. To offer you the best content, Philippe Henry, sound engineer, is at the technical helm of the podcast. Thank you for being with me today, and now it's time for talent.
Bienvenue dans Comme d'Archi.
Today, in this Comme d'Archi number 23, we fly to our English friends at Hatfield Castle. Located north of London, in a large park, the Great Park, near the town of Hatfield in Hertfordshire, England, this Jacobean house was built between 1607 and 1611 by Robert Cecil, first Earl of Salisbury and Chief Minister to King James I of England, and has remained, to this day, the home of the Cecil family, Earls of Salisbury. Why should we be interested in such a house? Well, did you know that it has been used as a setting in many films? An argument that could, in itself, justify my choice. But for me, it is the demonstrator of something completely different. It shows large windows and demonstrates that the masonry wall, contrary to popular belief, does not protect against the cold. On the contrary, the thermal inertia of masonry is better able to protect from the sun, hence the incredibly thick stone walls in Sicily. On the other hand, large English homes often have large bays with bow windows and brick walls. English builders understood that architecture with less thermal inertia was faster to heat up. The main architect of the house was Robert Lemminge. But Simon Basil, the surveyor of the King's Works, and Inigo Jones also contributed to the design. Here is what we can read about this house in a 1948 edition of A History of Architecture on a comparative method by Sir Banister Fletcher, knowing that the first edition of this book dates back to 1896. Amazing. The Hatfield House stands preeminent amongst many noble piles of this period, in displaying the special characteristics and elaboration of treatment considered suitable for the country mansion of a noble man. The house is E-shaped in plan, with central hall and projecting symmetrical wings, and is set off by formal gardens, designed with the same care as it displayed in the planning of the house itself. The entrance front, long, is of daringly plain brickwork, with stone mullioned windows relieved by a projecting central entrance. While the bay windows of the wings are taken up as small lateral towers, and the building is finished by a flat roof and balustrade and dominated by a central clock turret. The south front is much more ornate in treatment, with Doric, Ionic, Corinthian orders superimposed to form a centerpiece flanked by an arcaded ground story, mullioned windows, and pierced parapet. The two-storied hall with mullioned windows, minstrel's gallery, and mottled plaster ceiling is a Renaissance development of the medieval hall, but there is an unusual connecting gallery at the day's end. The long gallery, chapel, grand staircase, and suites of private rooms all contribute to the completeness of this Jacobean mansion, and do honor to its architect Robert Lemminge, who also designed Blinkling Hall. Do you know what the Jacobean architecture is? It is the name given to the second phase of Renaissance architecture in England, succeeding the Elizabethan model. It is named after James I, King of England from 1603 to 1625. And finally, what films was the beautiful house used as a set for? Oh, they are so numerous that we will not mention them all. Among the most famous, Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, Batman, Tomb Raider, Elizabeth the Golden Age, Pride and Prejudice, The Favourite. This architecture of English-style splendor seduces. It still promises to astonish us, and so much the better. RV next week for the return of our usual formats and the launch of Season 2 of Comme d'Archi, with the interview of a very nice agency. The agency will describe one of their projects in English, a special recording that will be aired every Wednesday. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to tune in to our previous content on Instagram at Comme d'Archi Podcast. If you like it, make sure to promote the podcast by giving it 5 stars on Apple Podcast and adding a comment, or on any of your favorite podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe and listen to all of our episodes for free. See you soon, and until then, take care of yourself.